Hello, everyone. I'm Nikki Scroggins with Maryland Public Television, and I'd like to welcome you to our open mic night. We have an excellent lineup for you tonight. We're going to hear from the winners of MPT's Hemingway Writing Contest. We're so excited to hear these winning submissions. But first, I have a few housekeeping items. As I mentioned before, this is the Hemingway Writers Contest open mic night. If you know Hemingway, some of the themes and topics can be rather heavy and are best for mature audiences. So anyone under younger than 14 may want to leave the room. Next, please feel free to use the comments and the like buttons to show these writers support. Remember, it can be tough to read your work aloud, and so this is no place for haters and negativity. And finally, don't keep this to yourself. Please feel free to share and everything with those that you think might be interested. Now that I got that out the way, let's get started. For those of you who don't know, MPT invited writers to submit their original poems and short essays surrounding the themes that are often found in Hemingway's work. Now, this activity was in conjunction with the premiere of the newest documentary by Ken Burns and Lynn Novick, aptly called Hemingway. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, you can click the link in the comments. MPT was so excited to receive more than 85 submissions from so many talented writers. Our review committee had the tough task to narrow down the submissions to just 5 winners. Tonight, we're going to hear from them in reverse order. So we had a 3-way tie for third place. Up first, you're going to hear from Taylor Baker. Welcome, Taylor.
Hi.
So could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you wanted to participate in this project?
Yeah, I'm going to be a senior this year in high school, and I have shown an interest recently in going to college for something English-related, preferably literature, and I've enjoyed reading my entire life, basically, and this is my first time really submitting a piece, and I wanted to see how it would be, I guess, accepted by the community, and I was just really interested to see how that would go.
Awesome. So you've told us why you entered, and now we'd like to hear what you got.
Great. Okay. This is Lies of the Past. Masculinity, a trait that has been twisted to reach society's expectations, has also been taught for generations. Men are meant to be strong and brave, but they are never to cry or be afraid. Society has weaved these lies into a braid in our minds, where it lives as a slave waiting to be freed. Oftentimes, this belief stays enslaved until the end of time. However, there are a few who, when they reach their prime, realize that these expectations are only lies. There is no ultimate truth that forces a man to be strong or to never cry. However, when a whole accepts something as truth, the rest of its parts will walk willingly by. Understanding this simple idea creates freedom in a person's mind. No longer must we accept this tea without changing it to be our own kind. Society is changing, and with it are constraints, so stop just talking and begin discharging these traits. Change can be accomplished in many different fashions, but the first step is coming together and to start taking actions that will change our world forever.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Taylor. So up next, we'll hear from Elizabeth Dryden. Good evening, Elizabeth.
You want me to just start in?
Well, I just, I will say good evening to you and share a little bit about yourself and why you wanted to participate in this project.
Okay. I'm a lifelong writer, and for quite a while, I have been raising 2 children who are now independent adults, which is nice to see. And I worked primarily in nonprofit health and the health-related fields, doing a lot of writing, but not creative writing. So now that I'm kind of transitioning roles, I'm back to the more creative side. I'm currently writing my memoir, and this is the first piece that I've submitted. So,
wow. Well, we are excited to hear it. So whenever you're ready.
All right. Black. Gray to start out, variants of gray, really. Some, the uninitiated, expect it would be blue. Blue requires light, though, and that is absent. So it is gray. Gray like thunderheads pushing in and darkening the sky. Being tired is usually the first to accompany the gray, not from exertion nor lack of sleep, just the need to cocoon in my bed. I'm grumpy and anger easily. Tears come with no prompting and sometimes no reason. Disinterest in everything becomes standard. I don't like being idle, but I cannot engage. I have neither the energy nor the ability to think clearly. Alone is not lonely. It brings needed isolation. Others close to me can tell. They see it in my eyes, my posture. They hear it in my voice and lack of words. Everything I say or do slows down. I am sometimes reluctant to admit it. I don't want it to be true. I can't imagine negotiating my way through it yet again. Then comes the change to increased darkness, and that I always recognize. Black, torturous black. Black as tar, black as unburned coal, black as freshly polished dress shoes. Black envelops me. I become encased entirely inside black, like a corpse inside a coffin. No exit exists. Black fills me inside. It occupies all the space. No room left for familiar feelings. No path for complex thoughts, therapeutic or logical. It weighs me down like a cement foundation. Sometimes it's too solid to move. Sometimes it's too crushing to breathe. Darkness also fills the hole. Oh, yes, there is a hole. It contains a vortex of black. For a long time, the hole is only up ahead. It is at the end of my painful path. As I see the hole getting closer, the weight I bear grows heavier. There's no way to lighten or lose that load. The hole I see is enormous. The edges are steep and the bottom invisible. The vortex pulling everything in. It is my destination, but it will not be a release. I've been burdened for a long time by the heavy darkness I carry, the darkness that fills me. Months and months and years. To the desperate, it feels like forever, until it is not only on and in, but everywhere, surrounding me silently. I'm just a few steps away from that precipice now, the trigger point, the threshold. I'm neither strong enough nor capable enough to tackle the challenge of survival. What if I am not prepared enough? And I enter that battle, only to find I cannot withstand the assault. If I am too wounded before it begins. No one knows the thought I have given, nor the secrets I manage to keep. Deeper, heavier, harder to bear. It is unendurable at times. Even drink is no longer sufficient. I have a desperate need to escape in any conceivable way. The darkness overtakes me. I must elude the ironically heavy emptiness. All I see now is the vortex inside the dreaded hole ahead. I could not withstand the continued pain inside it. Without fanfare or sorrow, without regret, I choose the alternative.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Elizabeth. That was such a journey. Now, next up, we're going to hear from Taylor Zimmerman. And I just want to thank you, Taylor, for showing us what you got today. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you wanted to participate in this project?
Absolutely. My name's Taylor Zimmerman, and I am a local musician in the Baltimore scene. I was recently accepted as the co-frontwoman and violinist for the Kelly Bell Band, and Kelly Bell was actually the one who told me about this contest and said, hey, why don't you submit your work? And I'd never submitted anything before, like the previous two contestants. It seems to be a theme going on here. So I did. I figured, what could be the harm? And the poem I'm about to read, is my personal journey and transition from being a sexual assault victim to a sexual assault survivor, learning how to listen to my intuition, discovering my true authentic self and reclaiming my power. And I just hope that maybe if somebody's going through a similar experience, that they're able to take these words and bring them to the next level and help them out. So that's the knowing.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I can't wait to hear it. So whenever you're ready.
Okay, this is the knowing. Slow down time. Sit with yourself and listen. Just listen. Be still. Open for a passing sign. Divine intervention revealing entanglement's control on the mind. Just sit with yourself and listen. Untangle that line. The line as defined. Life's tightrope suspending emotional acrobatics in time, somersaulting through the space between what's manic and what is sublime. The knowing. You've buried her deep for so long. She breaks the tension. Beyond the surface through the opaque abyss she climbed, gasping, I'm alive. Acknowledge her peregrination. She's the knowing, rebirthed divine. Relinquish the past. It's okay to leave all the pain behind. You are worthy of all that is good in this life, worthy of feeling sun-kissed relief from strife. You are stronger than the world's programmed you to think, stronger than the bonds tied round your wrists as aids to slip, to sink. So, let's slow down time. Just be still and sit. The knowing, the spark, whatever name you want to give it, a name is just a name. It's that zealous passion that makes you tick. Witness your darkness burst into brilliant light, a prism refracting, so serene. Exquisite. You are the flame and the wick, and at long last, you are lit.
Wow, I don't even know what to say. I'm sure that the audience feels just like I do about all of our third place winners. So congratulations to all of our third place winners. Now we're going to hear from our second place winner, Haley.
Hey, Nikki.
Hi, Haley. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you were a part of this project?
Sure. So I was born and raised in California. About 8 months ago, I packed up my dog and moved across the country to Maryland. And since I got here, I've been really eager to find my voice in my new home state. So when I saw that Maryland Public Television was wanting to explore modern Hemingway, I saw it as a chance to kind of explore my own story and why I'm even here through a new lens. And it felt really cathartic to write, and it felt cathartic to share too.
Awesome. So you're up.
Okay. I didn't understand or care to understand Ernest Hemingway's Iceberg Theory of writing until I slipped into a rather severe state of depression. Understand that I was a loud child and a louder adult. Early on, I sensed an emptiness within me that I thought only an endless cacophony of words might fill. If I was not whole, then I would write myself whole. I'd stitched together what was broken with sentences that stretched out like bandages. I gravitated to writers who told me everything, pouring their hearts on the page and letting the blood dry with the ink. And, as one might expect, my own writing took a decidedly purple slant. Even off the page, I found myself wanting to confess to strangers, to make them understand the inner workings of my brain, and to share my deepest fears with a level of description that likely would have been equal parts off-putting and tedious. I had so much to say, and also so little. When one novel after another stalled, I never questioned if the problem came from within. I had enjoyed a moderate level of success, securing a string of writing jobs at Silicon Valley tech companies that paid the bills and provided more than enough disposable income. I constructed a life that looked quite marvelous through a social media filter, and I would often catch myself explaining my happiness to others, like it needed defending, which, of course, it did. I read A Farewell to Arms in the summer of 2019, right before the worst period of depression in my life. I guess I craved some fictional hardship to balance out the brewing storm in my brain. I stopped short at the line that has stopped short generations of readers. The world breaks everyone, and afterward many are strong at the broken places. I thought it was a lovely half-truth. Some of us arrive in this world broken. Some of us wait for strength that never comes. And then my life unraveled at a pace that I didn't know was possible. First, my marriage fell apart. We had been together since high school, but only married for a few years when my husband explained how difficult my mental health had been for him. I remember being embarrassed and annoyed to share this detail with loved ones later. All of their concerned faces hiding the obvious follow-up question, well, didn't he know that when he married you? I left a toxic work environment for a short series of jobs, and then I proceeded to have disastrous panic attacks on, respectively, my second, first, and third day on the job. I stopped working. I cut off a truly mind-boggling amount of friends and coworkers, and then I waited for sanity or doom to find me. In the stillness, I discovered something unexpected. I had always thought of myself as a joyful creature with a debilitating mental health issue, a tear in the fabric of my being that leaked out all the good in my heart. I had tried to patch up the hole with words and stories, and I had failed. But now, with nothing left, the tear inside me seemed to be letting in hope. I imagined my body as the wooden hull of a ship, leaking on the sea, but letting in the sunlight once I was shipwrecked on the shore. It made me wonder about the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. It made me wonder about all that I knew and all that I thought I knew. Hemingway's Iceberg Theory is often equated with minimalism, but at its core, it's about what the writer knows about her own story. Based on his sparse form of journalism, reporting on events with very little context or interpretation, the Iceberg Theory has become an important part of Hemingway's legacy. In Death in the Afternoon, he provided his best explanation of the theory. If a writer of prose knows enough of what he is writing about, he may omit things that he knows. And the reader, if the writer is writing truly enough, will have a feeling of those things as strongly as though the writer has stated them. The dignity of movement of an iceberg is due to only 1/8 of it being above water. A writer who omits things because he does not know them only makes hollow places in his writing. So, what is the opposite of an iceberg? I had thought about all the years I had spent crafting a good life on the surface, posting the right pictures and captions on social media, defending my happiness, creating a life to be seen, not experienced. There was nothing underneath my elaborate construction. I had been a hollow writer and a hollow person. I think about one particular phrase of Hemingway's Iceberg Theory as I work to build a new life: the dignity of movement of an iceberg. And I'll be honest with you, I have not yet truly emerged. I deactivated all of my social media accounts, left 3 decades of memories behind in California, and never replied to at least 100 texts and emails. Today, I have made a new home for myself in Newmarket, Maryland. And I am writing again. Before, I attacked the page with my prose, but now I slide sections of my story together like puzzle pieces. I have learned some patience, some restraint. When I poke my head above the surface again, depart my self-inflicted exile and brave the waves once more, I hope I will be stronger in the places where I once was broken. And I hope I'll see people as stories, iceberg-shaped works of art that are struggling to be seen and be known and be understood by themselves and by each other, above the water and below it.
Great job, Haley. I can tell you, you are being seen right now. Congratulations again on second place.
Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, we're going to hear from our first place winner, Aura.
Hey, Nikki.
I pronounced your name correct, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you wanted to share this with us?
Yeah. My name is Aura. I just graduated from college, actually, with my bachelor's in arts in intercultural communications. I've always liked to write. I think the reason why I wanted to submit to this specifically, and this is my first time submitting as well, is because in high school I read a lot of Hemingway, and so he's really influenced my writing. So I just felt like this was a really good opportunity to be able to share that part of myself.
All right, we're ready to hear.
Thank you. This piece is called The Diagnosis. 1 year ago, almost to the day, I sat in a psychiatrist's office and filled out paperwork I hardly understood and didn't care to read in its entirety. I prayed that I was there for nothing. I prayed that all of the nuggets of evidence I had collected that pointed to something would turn out to be fool's gold. I prayed that the box checked on my psychiatric referral sheet would be unchecked. I've always hated my tendency to overthink, but in this moment, I wanted nothing more than to be an overthinker. So why are you here today? I gave the psychiatrist my usual spiel, the one I had documented on Twitter, the one I gave my mother, the one I gave my primary care physician nearly 3 months prior. I talked frankly about my darkest moments and my lows that felt like highs. I mentioned the night I tried to kill myself in passing so as to not cause her any worry or concern, and to tell my own body that this isn't worth crying over. Not here, not now. And how did you try to kill yourself? I paused. I wasn't expecting that question. I had never recounted that night in its entirety with all its context, not even to myself, especially not to myself. As I started to speak again, I thanked God for the mask that hid my quivering lip. I hate crying in front of people. But as my vision blurred, I realized that my eyes had betrayed me. Why are you crying? Because it still hurts. I sat there, blotting away all evidence of the betrayal as the psychiatrist looked over the forms that tallied my symptoms. Finally, she looked up at me and gave me the diagnosis in a calm, measured manner, as if there is a way to break this kind of news gently. Have you ever been afraid of your own mind? I broke the news to my father on the ride home. The silence that followed was heavy. The space between us grew with grief, confusion, and fear, and it was collapsed with a simple question. So that's what it is. Yes. Neither of us could look the other in the eyes. Over the next 3 days, I pondered over what the diagnosis meant. I refused to call it by its name. I cried, and I laughed, and then I grieved a version of myself I had never met, one who was less traumatized, less damaged. I wondered if they would also be here with this diagnosis. Buried memories began to resurface, memories that made me want to peel my skin layer by layer all the way down to my bones. No shower could make this prison I lived in feel clean. Side effects disrupted my days. My appetite was non-existent. I crashed in the middle of the day to wake up 3 hours later, dazed and confused. I fell asleep faster at night, but I could never stay asleep. I saw more sunrises after starting on that medication than I ever had in my 21 years of life. I poured myself into projects. I rearranged my room to make it my safe haven. I became a devoted plant parent and found comfort in puttering around my room to check on my succulents, lilies, and vines. I drowned out the noise in my head with music in a language I do not speak in an effort to forget again, an effort to make this body feel like a safe and livable space again. I pondered on the perception of this diagnosis. It's not one that the online mental health advocates like to talk about. It's not one that regular people like to talk about. It is raw. It is fierce. It cannot and will not be made small to be wrapped in pretty packaging. I looked over old pieces I had written and saw the blood-red letters sprawled out on the walls. I thought about the implications of this disease. Stories of Black people being brutalized or killed during wellness checks flooded my memory. I closed the apps. What does it mean to be a queer Black person living with mental illness? I had lived in fear of my own mind for years, and now that I had those words to piece together why I was so afraid, I feared what everyone else would think. I sit here a year later writing this piece, and I'll be honest, I'm still afraid. I stutter every time I try to name this demon. To be bipolar, and to be queer, and to be Black, and to still find joy in this life is to live in constant opposition of what the world tells you your life is supposed to be. It is finding treasure in treachery, and it is making peace with your pain. Thank you.
Well done, Aura. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And on behalf of Maryland Public Television, I want to thank all of our winners. All of you are amazing. Thank you to everyone who entered and submitted to this project. And lastly, I want to thank all of you that are watching. We couldn't do it without you. And everyone have a wonderful evening.